Hey, what's happening? Um, hey y'all. Hello. Okay, so, um, good evening, happy Juneteenth, and welcome to the Becky Brown Girl Show. I'm your host, Becky Brown Girl, and tonight we're talking travel and living abroad. So, this is actually something I had wanted to talk about last week, but the person that I reached out to was not available at that time. But I have two um, new guests who I know are going to be amazing. If anyone else has travel experience that they want to share, feel free to comment. Um, Maybe I'll add you later. I see one of my guests is on now. Hopefully, the other will be joining soon. But anyway, so the reason that I wanted to talk about this topic is because, there's a lot going on in America. And I can't say that I ever previously considered living anywhere outside of the US, like visiting for sure. But I don't know. It's looking, it's looking like a possibility down the line, right? So, anyway, so I wanted to get some folks on who have had experience, living abroad either for a period of time or, who are currently doing it. I didn't say that ASAP 95, but I mean, you know what I'm getting at. So, and, particularly for us, right? Um, I want to talk about like places that people are going because there is a movement. There are expats setting up, basically new residents in other countries. I know I've seen Bali. I've heard is a popular destination. In Colombia, Cartagena. Do not judge my pronunciations, please. Medellin. Costa Rica, one of my guests that I'll have on this evening, lives there. So I look forward to speaking with her. Okay, Belize. Yeah, so, a lot of other places that are not here, right? So, with that said, I'm going to go ahead and introduce my guests. I have Sequoia Carr and Carlos Scott joining me this evening. So Sequoia is originally hailing from California. She embarked on a transformative journey that has taken her from the busy streets of New York, where she resided for 15 years, to the serene landscapes of Costa Rica, where she's called her home for the last 4 years. She's been driven by a passion for cultural immersion and adventure. I love adventure. Sequoia curates unique group trips and co-facilitates retreats specifically designed for women of color. Her ventures are not just about sightseeing, but about deeply experiencing and connecting with the essence of each destination. I like that. With a keen focus on slow travel, she advocates for meaningful encounters that foster genuine connections and enriching experiences. In addition to Sequoia, I also have Carlos Scott joining me. He lived abroad for a few years. He'll talk about that experience as well. Carlos is a PR and marketing executive for Envision Marketing. Over the last 2 decades, he's represented diverse clients, 8 gold medalists, 5 Super Bowl champs, Hollywood actors, Grammy-winning artists. So he's connected. Politicians. He's also been on CNN, CNBC, ESPN, and graciously agreed to come to my show to join me to talk. Oh, pardon me. And also very important, he's a proud autism dad. So my apologies, Carlos. But he graciously agreed to join me this evening as well. So I'm going to go ahead and add both of them right now. I think he'll be on momentarily. I hope he'll be on one momentarily. Um, where are you? Oh, maybe I didn't actually hit the accept. Sorry. Okay. Um,
Okay. All
are we
right.
there? Okay. Hold on. Let me go ahead and add Sequoia, and then uh, you two can, both add anything more you want to say before we get into this conversation.
No, I'm just ready to have some fun and enjoy this conversation. This is actually a great conversation. A lot of people are that I know are considering, and some have actually done what you're considering, which is to move abroad, right?
Yes.
And so and I don't know if you know the phraseology. It's called expat,
Yes.
which is an expatriate.
Yes. Yeah.
So and one of my former clients, that we represent, lives in Singapore right now, and so
That's one of
yeah, so we could talk about that as well and what led them there, and just a litany of different things. Because yeah,
Excellent. So, Sequoia has also joined. Say hi to the people.
can you hear me good? Can you
I
hear
can
me good?
hear you great. I can
I
hear
can
you
hear you.
perfect.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay.
Okay.
So, Sequoia, I don't know if you have anything else that you want to add
Oh, I
before
don't
we.
see anybody else. Somebody else on here, right?
Oh
Yeah.
no.
He can't see me? I can
Yes.
see him.
That's too bad that you don't see her. She's lovely. But that you know what? That's happened before. I don't know if you want to go out and then I can try to add you back, but
Let
that
me
has
turn
happened.
if that does anything. No, that didn't.
You know what? Why don't you go out and I'll add you again, because that's happened to other people that
Okay.
I've had on here before where they couldn't see the other person. And I know it's weird when you're talking to somebody that you can't see. So
All right.
anyway.
I didn't catch the intro. I was waiting like to be let in, and so I didn't catch the
Oh
intro.
no, that's
So
okay. So I was basically saying how the reason that I wanted to talk about this topic is because like I've never considered living outside of the US,
hmm
visiting for sure. But it's a lot going on here. And
tell me about it.
my son is grown now. So I feel like although I'm not sure how I feel about being like really far away, he's not a baby, right? Um
So
So it's something that I'm considering that I hadn't necessarily considered in the past. I know people who have moved overseas and
yeah.
and like it.
Well, the thing is,
Actually, I have
if you don't have any reasons or ties to the U.S., you can make the decision, and you can always come back. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not, you are a citizen of the United
right.
States. So if you decide to move somewhere for a number of months, they're not going to kick you out if you try to come back. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
So
no.
if you
Go ahead.
have the itch, I encourage anyone to at least experience it once in their lives. And I think that in order to really experience a place, you have to be there at least a month. Do you know what I mean? You can go vacation for 2 weeks and it feels
Yeah.
great, but like you don't really get the ins and outs if you're not there
No.
for, for a
No.
month
No.
at least.
No. And that's what I mean. That's I'm gonna get into that with you. Um, let me just see if I don't know if he's on here now. Let me see if I can add him back. Um
Get him back in here.
yeah, I'm very curious to hear about your experience, but I gave them your background that you're from Cali originally, you lived in New York,
Mhm.
and then now you are in Costa Rica. Now, are you on the Pacific side or the Atlantic side?
No, I'm in the Caribbean. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Did you come to the Caribbean or did you stay on the Pacific
No,
side?
I stayed on the Pacific side. I stayed on
See,
the
no, no. The Caribbean
All right.
is where the flavor is, and it's where the most of the Black people are. So,
yeah.
and it's more diverse. The Pacific side is beautiful, it's lovely, but it's not at all like Puerto Viejo
What
or
side were you talking about? I missed that. I was logging
I
in.
live in Costa Rica, but I live on the Caribbean side.
Oh.
Yeah.
Can you see her now?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, great. Okay.
Have you been?
Yes, that's why I said thumbs up. Yeah,
Oh,
there's a
you know what I'm
difference.
talking about.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
I have to say that I really wanted like when I decided to go visit because it's been a few years since I went there. I wanted like adventure. I took a solo trip there,
Mm,
and so
okay.
it was during COVID, and
Okay.
like
That's my move.
I had I had one other solo trip prior to that, and my experience with that trip was different because people always like you have to do a solo trip because you'll meet people along the way, especially if you're like extroverted, right? People
Totally.
are happy, they're on vacation, they're having a good time.
Hmm.
Right.
And I did. It was great. So I envisioned that it might be something like that, but it was definitely different. I definitely enjoyed it, but I also was like, well, I'm looking for adventure. So I just kind of went off and did my, own thing off the resort that I was staying at.
Right.
But I definitely would like to come back there and go
Yeah.
on the other
You have
side.
to have a genuine experience. Now stay on a resort, rent a house, a jungle house, a casita like we have out here,
Mhm.
and like ride a bike, go to the grocery store, pick up some coconuts, like do like local
Right.
stuff. That will
Go to
really
the market.
go to the market. That's my favorite thing to do when I travel. I go to the markets, the farmers
Yes.
market. Like I like to see what's in their grocery stores. I like to see what they're eating. And just so you know, Costa Rica is not cheap when it comes to food. I don't know if you experienced that.
Yeah.
It probably wasn't so high back in 2020, but nowadays things have definitely
Yeah,
skyrocketed.
I went at 21. But I mean same thing. It was still during the pandemic. So but okay, so cuz we're I definitely want to talk about this. Like this is
Mhm.
really the meat and potatoes of what I wanted to talk about. But before we get into living abroad, I wanted to talk about just travel in general.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Um so what each of you, what are some of your favorite travel destinations and why? So either one of you can go.
Well,
Okay, ladies first always. I'm a
Yes.
gentleman, so ladies first.
okay.
Okay.
Uh, one of my favorite places to travel would have to be Bahia in Brazil.
Okay.
Um,
Mm.
I like to travel to places where I can see us. I can see a large, population of melanated folks, and Bahia had the flavor, it had the culture, the dancing.
I hear
It's
that.
rooted like African tradition. So the drums, you hear them all around, and it just feels good. So that's one of my favorite places to visit.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Carlos.
Oh my gosh. To piggyback on what she was saying, I've been to Rio a couple of times, but I've heard of some other places, and I've heard that was a melanated destination
Oh yeah.
where she was. And I'd like to say, a place that I was surprised that I had a really good time
Mhm.
and wanted to spend a little bit more time, but Cuba. I went
That was
to,
that was next actually. I had to choose
yeah,
between both of those.
I was pleasantly surprised. Um, I was pleasantly surprised at how much fun we had, how many people that are my color that are there. That's a whole nother story.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
um, Bermuda is another place that I always enjoyed. Like she said, Costa Rica is expensive in Bermuda, but I
Yeah.
really and Turks and Caicos. I really do. I've had some great times in Turks and Caicos. Um, oh my
Caicos is
God.
vacation though, right? You don't solo travel to Turks.
I didn't meet a lot of solo travelers in Turks and Caicos. I met it was a lot of groups, and then one time it was for work because the client was performing. But I just think, and maybe, and she'll be able to chime in on this too, both of you. I think the people that you meet make the trip. You can be in the middle of the Saharan desert, whatever, but the people that you meet actually make that place. And I'm a person that likes to, I like to be amongst the culture. I like to venture off. I don't like to do the commercial thing and be on the resort. I want to eat what the locals eat. I want to shop where the locals shop. And so that I can really get a real sense of their culture and not some Western Americanized version that they think that we want to see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Sequoia, you mentioned not staying on a resort, and again, like not necessarily doing a ton of research on the place ahead of time. I was like, I just want to go away. I want to do something like adventurous. So I said Costa Rica. Like I want to talk more about this, like maybe now or later in the conversation, but about like safety, right? Because especially for a woman, and as an American, like it on the side of Costa Rica that you're on, I'm sure a lot of people look like you. By the way, on the other side of Costa Rica, I mean, you probably could blend in better than me, right? I'm just saying, complexion wise, right? So I don't know if they assume you are, you know, because to be honest with you, I don't remember kind of exactly how they look, but certain people are going to stand out more as obviously not from there.
Yeah.
And then you can become a target. So like, do you have any concerns relative to safety, or like is that something that you consider when you travel to certain places, or you just kind of go and
No, absolutely. I do consider that when I travel. Costa Rica happens to be one of the places that I felt the most safe.
Okay.
I've never felt like it was a privilege to be Black while traveling, except here. So, I mean, there is petty theft in Costa Rica. There's no military.
Okay.
So like when I'm around the police officers, I don't feel nervous, not like you do in America, So, I mean, I typically feel more concerned for my safety when I'm in the US versus Costa Rica. Exactly. Or honestly, a lot of other places that I've traveled.
So, for example, what are there, because that was another question I wanted to ask you, are there places that you've been that you would not go back to, and not just for the safety, point of view, but just your experience there was not what you expected?
That was a hard question for me, but because yes, probably Belgium, because it wasn't that exciting. I want to say the best thing about being in Belgium was that it was a quick drive to Paris.
Nope.
But I mean, I'm sure there are other cities in Belgium that are like very cool and there's, awesome things to do, but that just wasn't a place that I would go back to if I had the choice. There's so many places in the world that I want to visit, and that's not high on my list. So,
Carlos?
As someone who's lived abroad and that travels abroad for work and vacation, there are definitely places that safety is not even, you just don't even think about it, because again, the people are so inviting, and just like she said, even if you run into the police on the street or whatever, or whatever law enforcement they have, there's never a fear that, oh, I'm getting ready to go to jail because I ran into a police officer. But then there are places where, like for example, in the Dominican Republic, I had an incident on a resort, and because I am so chocolate, and if you know the dynamic of the DR versus the other side is Haiti, I guess the guy thought I was a worker, and and until I opened my mouth, and then he apologized, and he was like, "Oh, I'm like I'm clearly chilling in my, poolside or whatever." And so he kind of came up to me and asked me, like, "What was I doing?" And I was like, "Relaxing." And then when he heard my American accent, I guess I resembled one of the workers. from the other side that was Haitian or whatever. I don't know. It was interesting. But yeah, I think when you travel,
Dominicans
especially as
be
a
chocolate too. Don't get it twisted. Dominicans be
huh?
chocolate too.
Yeah, but they
They,
don't think well.
they
But
don't. I know. They don't. I know.
no, because I was gonna say I visited there too. That was where I went for my solo trip, and I had a great time. I
Yeah.
mean,
Oh, I
but
had a
to
good
be
time. I
fair,
had a good. Yeah.
I was on I was on a resort, but I did go off and do some excursions.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
Mm.
in certain places, I would be a little bit more careful about my safety. Like someone wrote in the chat, cops extort you in some places. Yeah, that's happened to me and a friend when we were in Mexico. As soon as we drove from the airport, they were like, you need to pay a fee. So
what?
Mexico is one of the places that I haven't felt as safe.
Okay.
Um, but look, yeah, have any of you traveled to Mexico? Yeah, and what have you heard about the cartels?
It, it's funny that you said that about Mexico because when I was like, um, I was doing a little like research,
Hmm.
you want to call it that, in advance, and I saw that in Mexico, it was Mexico City, which I
Hmm.
thought was like not a safe place for Americans. They said there's a big expat community in Mexico City and in
Yes, sir.
of us, and then a place called I'm gonna say it in my American accent, Merida.
Merida. Hmm.
Merida. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I heard there as well.
Merida.
So, uh,
Hmm.
I
But
don't know.
no, that's one of the safest places in all of Mexico.
Okay.
Merida, yeah, and there are a lot of Black expats there. There's also a lot of Black expats in Mexico City, a lot in Tulum. I think you don't have to worry about cartels so much. I don't think you have to be concerned with that being an American because they want our tourist dollars, so they're not really trying to mess up the flow of money that's coming in. But the police officers will, you know, oh, you need a certain type of tags on your scooter. Okay, well, you don't want to go to jail, then pay $100. Pay $150. Okay, well, how much do you have?
What?
That's what they'll do. So you just kind of have to be smart in that sense. And you're like, well, I only have $20. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Sometimes you
I'm
will,
sure they'll take it.
right, exactly.
Um. Okay. So, do you have any tips or tricks, like just either traveling or when you lived abroad? And Carlos, I'd like to ask you about your living abroad experience as well in a minute. But any tips or tricks to,
Yeah, I will
maximize
say,
your? Okay.
like I said, slow travel is big for me. And that is like spending at least 30 days in a place. And if you have the luxury, if you work online and you're able to work from home and you can take 30 days off, I would say if you book an Airbnb, generally you get a price break after multiple weeks. You'll get a considerable discount if you rent for 30 days versus 2 weeks. I use travel credit cards to rack up on points. If I'm booking an Airbnb, I'll go through directly through Delta Airbnb because you get a point per dollar you spend,
Okay.
and that adds up, accumulates miles.
Oh, sure.
So a lot of different like,
That's good.
and yeah, exactly. So, there's a lot of like incentives for travel if you really like look into it. And I mean, miles are so important.
Are you are you kind of like you have one airline that you fly with then, or is it?
Yeah, Delta, but lately they've been tripping on the Delta, the lounge, and I'm looking for a new airline partner these days.
Gotcha. Okay, so um, Carlos, any tips you want to share?
I
Yeah.
I say male or female, male or female. I say do some research, ask other people who are travelers, right? And I preface this by saying people that are travelers. don't ask people that are scared to death of their own shadow about traveling anywhere. But do your research and plan ahead. Plan excursions, things of that nature, so that you can get out. And she brought up a great point. If you can stay for longer than 2 weeks, like you said, a month, I think the more the merrier, because you get an opportunity. If you're only somewhere for like 3 or 4 days or even a week, it's hard to really see all of what that city or that country has to offer,
Right.
because you're limited certain amount of daylight time, and then not, so it's just. But if you're over there for 3 to
Uh-oh.
oh, sorry about that.
Right.
My kickstand fell. If you're over there for 3 to 4 weeks, then sorry about that.
That's good.
If you're over there for at least 3 to 4 weeks, then you get an opportunity to really go out and venture and see some things, and like I say, my biggest tip is make friends. Make friends with the local, whether it's your local bartender, whether it's your local barista, whether it's your local taxi driver, because these people, first of all, they're happy that you're there, right? Because they need us to be there, right? So ask them where they go, where they recommend, because a lot of times they'll tell you, oh, no, my friend, you don't want to go there unless you got, I mean, yeah, am I right or wrong? They'll tell you.
Yeah.
And so, or they'll say, go, but go during the daytime. Or they'll say, go, but go during the weekend when there's more, whatever. But yeah, just keep an open mind. That's another thing. Go travel, and I don't go to these places to eat McDonald's and whatever. I'm going over there with my palate open to try to eat the things that they eat,
Right.
and shop where they shop, and to really immerse myself in the culture. Don't go over there and just order room service in McDonald's or whatever the American things that you are. Go over there with an open mind, and like I say, be friendly.
I think that's excellent advice.
I just want to
Now,
piggyback on
go
what
ahead.
he.
There's a couple questions for you, Sequoia.
Well,
okay, go ahead.
Okay, I saw one about Africa, and I did visit South Africa last year, and I'm sorry, what is your name? Is it
His name's Carlos. Oh,
Carlos?
mine?
Carlos. No, no, I know you're right.
Oh, okay.
Like what Carlos was saying, get to know the locals. I did something. So some of the ladies may not know this, but on the dating app Bumble, there is an option to meet friends. So because I knew I was going to South Africa for the first time, and although I travel by myself and I meet people on the way, I was like, oh, well, maybe I can meet some other ladies who are living there that are locals that can show me around. And I was successful. I met 2 women there that ended up being like friends that I still speak to today. And that's an option as well, if you guys are familiar with that app.
Great.
Yeah.
That's great.
Wow.
Yeah,
That
that's something
is
I
interesting.
definitely. I definitely wouldn't have thought going on a dating app.
Right?
Yeah.
And
I've
then
never.
also utilize Facebook. I know maybe people don't utilize Facebook so much in the US, but it's still a very big thing overseas.
I actually, for work, I hosted a delegation me and my colleagues hosted a delegation that was from South Africa. So they're like, oh, you have to come and visit, because I haven't been to Africa. I really want to go, but there's like so many places in Africa I want to go. But I
Same.
mean, a lot of people speak very highly of South Africa in particular. So
It's a good intro to Africa, especially if you're doing a solo trip. Like I would love to go to Lagos and I would love to go to Accra, Ghana, but I don't know if that's a place I'd want to go by myself. I think I'd want to know people or go with someone. So South Africa, I think, is a good intro.
yeah, I've
I've
heard
been
there's
to
a big
both.
expat community in Accra, in Ghana
Yeah.
as well. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I have 3 friends in Accra right now. I've gone years ago, and I've also been to Joburg in South Africa. And it's a difference, right? Because in South Africa, um, it's I mean it was taken over, I think, by the Dutch, originally or whatever. So there's obviously you remember apartheid and all that stuff that so there's a lot of white people there, whatever. But in Accra and in other parts of Africa, oh,
Yeah,
it's
they're
heavy
not quite.
blacks.
Yeah, there's black
Yeah,
people everywhere. I imagine. Just
yeah,
like a black mecca, I imagine.
Yes.
yeah.
Um, so before I get into some of these other questions, because there were a couple questions, like I mentioned, for you, Sequoia. One was, how do you handle employment there, and are you working remotely?
I work
Mm.
remotely, but I also host retreats and do curate trips and experiences out here in Costa Rica. So I'm pretty like hands-on.
And you have flexibility, I'm
Mhm.
assuming that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Um, okay, so there was another question. I just have to go back a little bit that I think was directed at you as well. Um, so again, one of the reasons, again, why I was particularly interested in the possibility of not being in America is because, the way they treat us here.
Uh-huh.
So, like, to your point, I would like to go someplace that's more Black folk friendly.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
so I mean, obviously you feel that way about where you are now. What was the name of the place you mentioned in Brazil?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Um, oops,
What was that?
my ring
Oh,
flew
okay.
off because I was playing with it.
Oh.
Sorry, guys. Um, And okay, so I want to talk to Carlos about his living abroad experience because he lived in
England.
London. Very different,
Mm-hmm.
different. Now I like London.
Hmm.
Um, Living there, I don't know what that would be like, but I know expensive for sure.
Yeah, I was stationed in well, I guess about an hour and a half outside of London, but I worked a lot in London, and so and then at the time I was also an aspiring singer and stuff. So I was singing and opening up for people or whatever. So I had a very different experience than the typical Air Force person. I mean, I got a chance to open up for like Mary J. Blige, R. Kelly, Roy Ayers, Tony, Levert, different people. And
Oh, that's
so
right.
I had developed a little bit of a following, if you will. Uh,
Okay.
so I had a different experience. But the people that I was stationed with, to this day, we just last year we had our 30-year reunion of all of us that were stationed over there, and we met up in New Orleans. To this day, we got a Facebook chat group and everything. We get up and we travel, and then I also play football, and then so we have a Facebook group, and so we get up and well as well. So, but while I was over there, I think I was telling you, in the chat, in the DMs, we were talking about the thing that I really loved, or that I was how cheap it was to travel. Like if you're in England, the flight,
Within
to go
Europe.
from London to Paris, and then whatever, and then once you get over to the mainland, I mean, we jumped on this thing called a party train that took us from. We went from Germany to Amsterdam, and oh my gosh. I mean, it was that was just
Good time.
that was fun.
No,
A time
I
was had.
so
Yeah.
I visited there. The company that I was working for at the time was headquartered there. I'm in Stanmore, I think, was the name
Hmm.
of the city. But 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 you know, like right outside of London. But
Hmm.
I had a great time. Like I enjoyed it. Now, could I envision living there? And I didn't know you were in the military because I actually had a friend of mine who, you know, has been stationed all over as well. And I'm just assuming like being in the military is a different experience because you're not like because you're living on a base, you're not necessarily like maybe
Looking for housing.
immersed. Yeah, you're not necessarily immersed in the location in the same way that somebody who just kind of up and decides they want to move there, you know, or has a civilian job
Yeah.
might be. But um, would it would you live abroad again? And if you did, where might you go?
I often tell people I could live in London and only come back here for funerals and holidays. I mean, I had a blast, and I've gone there numerous times, personally and for work. Like track and field. There's a you know, we had the World Championship there. We had the Olympics there. We've had other events and concerts or just whatever. I even got a chance to speak on a conference there.
I hear
Right before
London
the
is
pandemic.
I hear London
I'm
is
sorry.
great. That I hear
Oh
London
yeah.
is great, and like I feel like I've never been, but I feel like London is like the New York of Europe, right? Everybody speaks English, and it's
Right.
like big city. It's very diverse. I just can't see myself living in the land of colonizers.
Well,
Take the
I
power.
think, but
By
here's
the way, happy Juneteenth, my black people.
yeah.
You
Um,
heard that happy Juneteenth, yo.
what
Oh,
I was pleasantly surprised when I went living over there. You know, there is a sizable African and Caribbean contingent over there, right? And and so they have their pockets. Like in Brixton, there's a huge, you know, Caribbean
Right, I hear
master.
London Carnival is off the chain.
Oh, yeah, they do their thing, and then um, having an opportunity to um, immerse yourself into their own culture, you know, that they bring over there. I mean, it was great. I was pleasantly surprised at the sisters. I mean, them sisters treated the brother right over
so
there.
hold on.
So
So are you telling me that you didn't encounter any see, I know my concept of racism as an American is different. I think I know some places that I've heard even more racist than here, right? But
mhm.
then obviously those are places that I would want to avoid. But like I don't think it doesn't exist. I don't know
Yeah,
if
it's
it's
just probably
as
more
yeah, I
subtle,
was gonna
you know.
say I don't know if it's as prevalent as it is here.
For
So
me, it was I mean, I can count on like two isolated incidents of, you know, of like blatant and or subtle, you know, of racist. But for the most part, um, I just didn't encounter it. But I also think it also has to do with how you present yourself and your demeanor, and just, you know, people, you attract the energy that you, my grandmother said this all the time, you attract the energy that you want, that you desire. And so I'm a very personable person. You know, they say I don't meet a stranger because I'm an extrovert. I'm not the guy that's going to sit in the corner and sit, you know, no, I'm a people person. And so,
I'm not
and
laughing at you. I'm laughing at Sequoia's expression because she's like,
Yeah,
yeah, so
because
for me,
what it sounds like you're saying is, if you're a good black, if you're a good black boy, they'll treat you well. Like,
no,
be
I,
be obedient, or if you're not out being all raucous. But like, none of it is like reason for, you know, cause for racism.
well, and I wasn't even just talking about white folks. I was talking about people in general for the most part. I mean, but I just think that um I attract, and I'm a person, like I said, um for the the most part, I just didn't have that experience. And the isolated time that I did, it wasn't just me. It was other people that were in our party that kind of, matter of fact, it's like, hey, what's going on? And then when we realized what was going on, it's like, oh, it's because we're black. And because no, we were out in one time was in London, and one time we were in, I think we were in Cardiff, going towards Coventry or something like that, whatever, outside the city. Because I traveled all over. I went to Manchester. I went literally all over. I went to Liverpool. I went to Wales. I was with a fun group, and we all had the same mindset. We're going to see every nook and cranny of this place that we can, because we all took it from a standpoint of, we don't know when the next time we'll be back over here. So we spend a lot of our time off the base and, immersed into the culture. And but yeah, that's just, yeah.
So you liked it, you would go back, but are there any other places like that you've been wanting to visit that you could potentially envision living besides here, or London, for instance?
I've been toying around with the idea of possibly somewhere like Accra, in Ghana. But there was some business opportunities a couple of years ago with one of our clients, and in the tech space, and so we were going back and forth, and I was pleasantly, like I said, I was pleasantly surprised, just how independent they are. That, like, from a technology standpoint of view, resources, like, they don't depend on us for anything. I know that the narrative about Africans are that they're behind on this, and that they, we remember the Sally Struthers commercials with the Africans with the, that were starving, they would, donate to whatever. That's not where we were. Not to say that they didn't have people in poverty or whatever case it be, but that is not, no, them people were doing good. And I definitely, like a buddy of mine, he built a house over there, him and his wife, and now they spend half the time here and then half the time over there. And matter of fact, he's trying to get his oldest daughter, who just turned 33, to possibly, her and her new husband, they're trying to get them to possibly do the same. And so, yeah.
So Sequoia, I have a question for you, because obviously you're, currently living abroad, but how about like the infrastructure, like the healthcare system, like what is that like? Because those are the kinds of things that, again, until you see, until you're there to see and experience it, you might only get a portrait of, however it's being presented other places. So I want to get like the real deal. What do you think about?
So, okay, if you were here to visit Costa Rica, or even this side of Costa Rica, let's say a week, and you were staying in a hotel, you probably wouldn't have to worry about Wi-Fi. You'd have consistent Wi-Fi. You wouldn't have to worry about water rationing, because there are some parts of this area where if we don't get enough water, rain, then the water gets rationed. The Wi-Fi still can be a challenge in some areas. So if you are a digital nomad, I would suggest having like a hotspot, or even, I know we don't like Elon Musk, but Starlink happens to be like, I feel like if you need Wi-Fi, that's the most reliable way to get it.
Okay.
The healthcare system is actually excellent. I just went to the dentist, and the dentist was amazing. It's like 60 or 70 bucks for a cleaning. I've gotten like a lot of things done here as far as like dental work.
Your teeth are very nice, by the way.
Thank you. And ladies, we have to go get our annual checkup, and my gynecologist is awesome. And I've had several friends have children here, and it is a fraction of the cost, and they've had incredible experiences with their midwives, their delivery, and their hospital stays. So,
is there like universal health care, or you still have, like insurance, or?
No, I've paid out of pocket.
Okay.
And the prices are very
Wow.
no.
Okay.
And
Now, do you, because when I think about, being in the islands, or, in the Caribbean, or I'm just thinking about like extreme weather circumstances. Now I understand
I'm in Costa Rica,
nowadays.
by the way. Someone's asking where I
Oh,
am.
yeah. That like hurricanes and, things like that are.
We are actually in a pocket of the world where we are free of hurricanes or tornadoes. We have, well, obviously not tornadoes, but we have extreme like rainstorms, thunderstorms.
Okay.
But we don't. We do have earthquakes actually. The first when I first got here in 2020, like days after I had just gotten here, and I'm from LA, and I want to say we had like a 5-point something earthquake, and I was like, dang it.
You're like, I thought I got away from this.
I thought I got away from this. Yeah, but yeah, we do have earthquakes on this side. I'm really close to Panama and Costa Rica has earthquakes, but we haven't had any.
I've also heard, speaking of Panama, that Panama City is a place that has a large expat community, Black expat community. But I mean,
I think it's because of the military. There was a I think it's because of the military presence there up on the canal, and but yeah, I believe that.
But again, the Panamanians I know look like us, so I don't. I know that live here. I mean, I'm not saying I know a bunch, but they look.
Yeah.
So
We all.
So what else did I want to ask you? I've covered a lot of these questions already, or like your responses have already addressed.
I have a question for her.
Sequoia, because you might have missed that part. So
Sequoia.
Yes.
I have a question for Sequoia. You brought up Bumble using for like networking, right? For certain places. Yeah. Like that. Now, how is dating over? How are the men? How the men treating you over there in Costa Rica?
Interesting question. So as far as dating as a Black woman, an expat, has been, I would say, particularly challenging for myself and like other friends that live here, primarily because I prefer Black men, and the Black men here tend to be open to all, if not prefer white women. So, and there's such an influx of Black women moving here. There aren't many Black men. So there's like 3 to 1.
I'm going to Africa. That's it.
Look, go to Africa, girl.
I mean, he might have, a couple wives, but
maybe he might, but you had your own talent, girl.
But he's gonna be blacky black.
Blacky black, right. I mean, yeah, and I think, I think it's similar in other places in the Caribbean where the locals expect to be taken care of by their women, which is probably why they prefer to date outside of their race.
Right.
I'm trying not to offend anybody, but
they be all right. I don't really care.
Okay.
I mean, if that's what whatever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Don't worry about that.
So yeah,
That's why the passport bros,
exists.
go to some of those places, but they're also paying.
Exactly. They're
We're not even gonna get into the.
exactly. How was it for you dating in London? Oh, you said the women treated you very
Oh yeah, I think I had a girlfriend that was of Jamaican descent, whatever, or Jamaican, her family, and Jamaican English or whatever, whatever. So I think she was the first member of her family that was actually born in England, but both of her parents were from Jamaica. And so a lot of the Caribbeans as well as African people, they live in pockets amongst themselves. And so, culturally, they're still, they're living in England, in London, or what have you, but on a day-to-day basis, their parents are speaking whatever, patois or whatever, or at a friend whose family was from Sierra Leone, and the grandmother spoke no English whatsoever. And so, but yeah, make a long story short, I had a great time over there. I had a great time. They were very, yeah, they like I said, they took care of a brother. We kind of joked about that. Some of my Air Force brothers was like, man, we had to moving back to America, we almost had to decompress to get ready for the reality that that we were leaving, because that was not the norm. And so,
Y'all gonna
but
stop talking
nonetheless.
about American women. Y'all is gonna stop
Oh
talking
no, no,
about
no! I
American
don't mean that I'm just saying. I'm not. Yeah, I'm just saying. I got 6 sisters. You'll never hear me say. I have 6 sisters and over 10 nieces, and I've represented a lot over. I think last count was close to 30 black women over the last 2 decades. So I'm an advocate and an ally for black women. I will not. I can't stand nobody to attack our sisters.
Good answer on Juneteenth. That's my mother. So Legend is the Elder said you're walking carefully. Wait, so Sequoia, there were a couple of questions for you. Michael Martin asked when you went to South Africa. I think she said that the locals treated her well. She made acquaintances with some of those folks ahead of time.
Yeah.
And then he asked, he was asking if they looked down on you because you were American.
No, not at all. I didn't get that experience at all.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good. So like I said, I feel like, we've covered a lot of these questions. I don't know if there's anyone else that has any travel experience that they want to share who's in the chat. There were a few people that I know, like I know somebody else who lives in London now, somebody I used to go to school with years ago. He's lived there a long time. But he was a little in the chat.
Someone asked how the law enforcement treated us, and they didn't catch it. But like I said, the police are, dare I say, great. They don't bother you. Like I'll say this, like at the beginning of the pandemic, smoking weed is not legal. Not technically not legal, but we smoke weed on the beach all the time. The officers don't hassle you, So
what would be considered something that like you could get in a lot of trouble for? Like, because there are certain customs that as an American, to your point, you may not be
privy to.
Yeah, they may be fine. It may not be a big deal here, but you go somewhere else and if you're not familiar, you could get yourself into, a predicament.
Oh, well, I don't know about Costa Rica, to be honest, but I recently went to Panama, and a friend of mine mentioned that it's different there than it is. It's far different there than it is here. We walk around scantily clad. We're in a beach town. We wear bathing suits to the grocery store. The men are shirtless all the time. But he said when he got to Panama that they drew guns because he didn't have his shirt on. And right. So that's something you got to be careful about when you're going from here to there. But what did I say? I don't know. I haven't really had any encounter with law enforcement like that.
Wait, hold on. Is somebody's TV on?
Anything.
Carlos?
Yeah.
Carlos?
Carlos?
I don't know.
I don't have a TV.
I hear something. I don't know what it is. Whatever. Anyway, so Mecca was asking how long you've lived in Costa Rica.
4 years.
And then Legend is the Elder asks, how does it feel living as the majority?
It feels good. I mean, we have it's we're diverse here. There's indigenous folks, there's Black locals, there's Black expats, there's European expats. So, but I mean, it feels good not to worry about my safety. It feels good to feel like it's a privilege to be Black. Something you don't feel when you're living in the U.S.
That part, and this is what the crux of what I'm getting to, because we do not know what's going to happen in a few months, and I'm not saying
get your passports ready.
What'd you say? Right,
ready.
But I mean, man, I don't know, man. I want to explore other options is all I'm saying, because maybe I'll say, you know what, this is where I'm gonna settle, but to your point, it's not like if I'm a citizen I can always come back. I guess I don't know what they might try to put they might have different rules for us. Anyway, I don't want to go off on a political tangent. So is there anything else that you would like to share on travel tips, travel hacks, or experiences? Oh, you know what, Sequoia, the other question that somebody asked you, I was trying to go back and look for it, was about good places to eat.
Yeah. So some of I did see that. What are my favorite restaurants in Costa Rica? I would say Kelvin's. It's Caribbean owned. It's a local spot here. Delicious food. There's another spot called El Refugio, which is an Argentinian restaurant, but the food is fresh. It's delicious. It's quality. There's a few that I can list off, but hit me up, you guys. If you're coming to Puerto, then I'll hook you up with the list.
What is what are the main industries there? Is it tourism, or there's other? Is it
tourism?
Okay,
for sure. Yeah, tourism and real estate. Like a lot of expats are coming in and buying up land. So,
well, let me hurry up before.
Hurry up.
Is it a good price right now? Is it still a good price to buy over there, or has it raised?
Oh, of course. Everything's going up, but it's still at a point where you can get some.
Okay, so my folks in the comments, do you have any other questions for my guests? Or y'all know everything there is to know about traveling abroad.
I did want to, you were talking about law enforcement, and I did want to say this startling thing when I lived in London, in England, and was in, traveling in London all the time. The police didn't even have guns on them. That was probably the most startling thing. Like, they didn't have guns on them.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's very interesting.
Yeah. I mean, they have guns, but they had them, but they were at was that Stockholm Yard or whatever that place is, with Stockyard, whatever. But so they didn't have a lot of issues with shooting and stuff like that. Plus, because their gun laws and stuff like that, they just didn't have those type of issues.
I mean, because they don't have the shenanigans that we have here. Got it. Yep.
Someone asked, do you come back to the States? Yes.
They got other shenanigans like the IRA and other people. Like, I was in Harrods one time when they were threatening to bomb Harrods or whatever. So they have some other issues, but yeah, I think, but for the most part, it was very safe. Didn't have any issues moving around.
So how frequently do you come back? Well, no, I'm sorry. I'm talking to Sequoia because she's not actually.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, okay.
No, it's okay.
A few times. I was just visiting family last week. I typically return to New York annually, and then I might visit family in LA.
So besides your family being here, do you miss anything about being in the States versus where you are now? What'd you say?
No, I said I don't even miss them. I mean, what do I miss? Yes, there are some things that I miss about the States. I miss having something shipped directly to you. I miss being able to hop in an Uber if I don't want to drive. I miss certain things. Yeah, but and amenities, but it's nothing that I would trade in.
So do you feel like your life is like simpler now being there, or like you're not kind of caught up in the in the rat race of America and the materialism and the
I mean, I have a bike. We have one road in and out. I mean, I have fresh coconuts delivered to me. We have like fruit growing on the trees. We have just clean eating, and that's something that I really value.
Okay.
So yeah.
So, I'm sorry. Web De Niro asked if it's cheaper to pay. Because I know you said that their healthcare was like affordable and you're paying out of pocket. But is it cheaper than I guess what you would pay for private health insurance?
No, I don't know. I haven't looked at it because I when I've paid out of pocket, it hasn't been exorbitant. So it's been reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, even with private health insurance, like if you work for a corporation, you're paying. You still have to pay towards whatever your, premiums are. They may cover the majority, but most companies are still deducting, money from you.
And if you become a resident, then there is local insurance that's pretty affordable too. But like I said, going to the dentist is $70.
He asked if you're in a blue zone. I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
Maybe
Costa Rica is a blue zone. Well, there's a part, so the Nicoya Peninsula is a blue zone, which is where people live 100 years or more, or up to 100 years. Costa Rica, the peninsula is a blue zone, not necessarily where I am, but it's in the country. Yes.
Okay. So I don't even know how to pronounce his name.
It's low stress, and I think that also kills a lot of us. It's high stress,
I will say, I mean, of course, when you go on vacation, like you should be not stressed, right? And especially if you know, go to the warmth and, you know, the island vibes. But
4 to 5 days for your nervous system to regulate.
what's that?
I said it takes more than 4 to 5 days for your nervous system to regulate.
That's interesting. But also, you know, makes sense. So, okay, I'm just gonna quickly add before I wrap up. I have no idea how to pronounce his name. I don't know how to pronounce his name. I'll just let him. It sounds like he's been to Costa Rica as well.
Okay.
So he can add.
Yeah, Mr.
He can introduce himself. I don't know how to pronounce his name. Hi, are you there?
Greetings. Yes, I'm here. Greetings. It's in Boise.
Can't see you.
Hold on. I didn't know we put on. Hold on. 1 second.
Okay. So I'm sorry. Pronounce your name for me again.
It's in Boise. I'm trying to find my light now. Hold on.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Greetings.
Hi. How are you?
All right.
So I'm sure that you saw that we are talking about traveling and living abroad, and Sequoia lives in Costa Rica. Carlos is has lived abroad as well. He lived in London, and of course, you know, they've traveled abroad as well. But I wanted to talk about this topic because it's something that I have contemplated. Potentially as well. So since you're here, if you could share briefly what your experience has been. Have you ever lived abroad? I saw you mentioning a few places that you've been in Costa Rica. You said it was your second home. So tell me a little bit more about that.
Yeah.
You don't have any more light by any chance, do you? Like, I see you, but
Let me see. Hold on.
I'm sorry. I'm not
That's
trying
all
to be a pain. I just want to. I want to see it better.
Got a little better?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, so Costa Rica, I jumped in late, so I just saw that this was the topic. I mean, I saw Costa Rica mentioned, so I don't know if this is specific about Costa Rica, but I get giddy about it because Costa Rica to me is like a place that if you really want to get away from America but stay on this side of the hemisphere, it's a great place to go because although it's tourism visited now, you know, there's a lot of people going there for tourism, but it still is like Jamaica about 25 years ago. Like it's a little bit behind, which is great because it's pristine, especially the Caribbean coast. And, you know, I fell in love with it. I've been going since 2012. And was able to, with some friends of mine, we purchased property there in 2014, and we're looking to, like, you know, I'm all into sustainability, so container homes, yurts, you know, 3D printing homes, things of that nature, because I teach STEAM, and also I'm into financial literacy. Financial therapist is what I do. But I talk about the importance of us looking at trying to get away from America and just seeing how living is different. You know, yeah.
You know what? Hold that thought. I figured out now what it is. It's somebody's thing has feedback.
Yeah.
Because I
heard
hear
that.
like I can hear. Yeah, I don't know who's. Yeah, no, because they're saying it in the comments now.
Yeah, I heard it when I logged on. I hope it's not from me.
No,
if I mute,
no, I don't think so because it was before you came on.
Yeah. It's like a muffled.
So, I don't know. Sometimes it happens if you're like too close to the device, and I know Sequoia has like ambient noises from, you know, from her surroundings. Like she said, because I was talking to her and Carlos beforehand. It's just because, you know, when the mics are open, like it picks up unless you have an actual mic, it just picks up every like noise around you. And she's like, well, the monkeys be monkeying. You can't control that.
Yeah.
Are you talking? Because I can't hear you at all, Sequoia.
So did I hear right that you frequent Costa Rica?
Yes. Yeah, that's actually a place that I hope to, you know, spend more time there. I would love to do 6 months at a time there. But yeah, that's a beautiful place. I mean, it's pristine. They don't have a military. The history is great there, especially on the Caribbean coast. It is an hour boat ride away from Jamaica. The border of Panama is 20 minutes away on the Caribbean side. So you can go to Panama, Bocos del Toro. You can go to another place called Pasamentos. But the history is rich there, especially for Black people, because most people tell you don't go to the Gold Coast or the Caribbean coast because they don't want us to know about how beautiful this place is.
Carlos, is your volume turned up high? Or are you really close to the device? Because it might be coming from your end.
What if we each mute to see if...
Yeah, I muted and I still...
It could just be so it went away. Can't hear you.
Now I know. Now I'm talking to you on mute. Tell me how to pronounce your name again.
Mbwebe.
Mbwebe. Okay, so I'm gonna mute. Go.
Okay. Yeah, I think it's on your end. Yeah. Unfortunately. But yeah, for what I learned in Costa Rica, like the history of Costa Rica, and I know this is specific when I'm speaking about it, is Costa Rica became, like, Black people came from Jamaica over to Costa Rica to work with the Chinese to build the railroads.
Right.
And I forgot the name of the bank that was financing it, but shrewd guy that stole the money, and so that they couldn't pay the workers. So what the government decided to do, they decided to give them land instead, which I think is a better deal. So they gave them land. So therefore, a lot of the folks from Jamaica and China never came back. They stayed. And so that's why you'll find a huge, your patois on the Caribbean coast, because again, it's an hour away, but they never left. The unfortunate thing is, as with land grabbing, is that our folks don't know the value of the land over there. So you would find people from, the Germans and Europeans and even Asians will come and put, let's just say, $50K on the table, not realizing the land is worth much more. And they end up selling that land, going away and splurging, and then coming right back to the very person that bought the land from them and asked for a job. So, it's been the miseducation of not knowing the value, of that land and appreciating value of it. And so unfortunately that's happening. Gentrification is worldwide. I deal with it all the time, talking about that topic, because we don't understand the value of the land. We think that it's cash and credit. It's land, because you can live off it, you can eat off of it, you can monetize it. And so hopefully, we're getting to a point where we're starting to understand that value, and we'll pour into that. But I think us, as those abroad or those in the United States, if we're looking for a second home, or we don't want to necessarily go, across the Atlantic Ocean, the Caribbean area is cool, but I would say Costa Rica is one of those spots you definitely want to check out. As soon as you get there, they call you cousin.
Right.
They understand.
The thing is, it's like that's the challenge with, like, living here and being like, oh no gentrification, but then essentially it's like we are doing the same thing. You know what I mean?
Well, it's different because we like them. We look like them.
Yes. Yeah.
It's different.
But
what I love is that most of the families here own their land. Like, but nobody's homeless. For the most part, nobody. You know what I mean? Most of the Black people here have families that have land. They have, you know what I mean? So, I hope that it remains that way, and, like, they don't tend to, sell off everything to, non people of color, and then change the entire demographic. Like, that's, so, like, this brother saying, like, come to the Caribbean. Like, I won't say because I'm not Costa Rican, but, like, we would prefer more of us to live there, especially like Kawika. Like, I think you mentioned Kawika. I love
Blacktown.
Blacktown. Yeah.
There's a lot of rich history there. One of the elders that he transitioned a few years ago.
Yeah, the godfather of Calypso, or the original.
Sankey.
Is it Walter?
You talking about Sankey?
No, I was talking about the the gentleman that's like the originator of calypso here in Costa Rica. He just passed away, like 100.
Oh, okay. So there was a historian. He was one of my babas. His name was Sankey, and he actually had a museum in Coweta. And he just he preserved a lot of the history of the creation of, because Coweta is translated as Black Town. So, these are
Oh yeah.
spaces. Yeah, these are spaces where we frequented and originated. And Limon is the capital, well, not the capital.
I don't know if
It's
that,
chip. Mhm.
I don't know, because Kawita, Kawe is the name of an indigenous tree,
Mhm.
and Kawe in their language blood. Oh,
Well, we could swap
okay.
resources. That's okay.
I was
I'm
gonna
okay with
say
it.
you guys should,
Yeah.
make sure that you connect. I definitely don't want to stop the conversation. I honestly I can't deal with that noise in the background. No, it sounds terrible.
Yeah.
It's and it's distracting. So, but I appreciate all of you for coming on and sharing your experience of living abroad currently, previously, something that you would contemplate in the future, and just other tips that you shared about travel in general. Maybe we can do a part two at some point, but again, it's definitely something to consider for those who are watching. I think most of the folks are based here, other than yourself, Sequoia. But we do not know what's going to come in the fall. So, in anticipation of some crazier times than the ones we're in right now,
Mhm.
is something that I should strongly consider, I think. Um, I mean, didn't they tell us to go back where we came from? Just saying. Anyway,
I mean,
bye.
we get visas in Ghana, right? I think they're
Oh yeah.
offering.
Well, I don't remember what year it was. They called it the year of the return or the
Yeah.
great return or
Yeah.
something like that. Yeah, bye. All
2019.
right then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I appreciate you all for joining. So you can sign yourselves out, and I'm going to have my party message with the
All right.
folks.
Big up
Make sure
yourself.
I put your
Me.
what's that?
I said thanks for having me.
Of course, I put you and Carlos's IGs in the chat, but you can add them again if you want, because of course the chat keeps going. And
Embuebe.
Embueve.
Embuebe.
I was gonna say
No
it
worries.
differently. Embueve,
Yes.
Embueve, Embueve. Put yours in there as well.
Absolute. Give thanks, sister.
So if you want the people to follow you, or if you'd like them to follow you on a different platform, or if you don't want them to follow you, but I already tagged you, so
Bless up. Thank you.
so they'll find you anyway.
All right.
Um,
Be well.
so thanks, yeah.
Okay, bye guys.
Have a great night.
Great. It was fun.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed it. Bye. Okay, so thank you to my guests, Carlos, Sequoia, and Webe. I think I got it right finally. Who was my surprise pop in? Well, not really a surprise, but yeah. So y'all should explore the world. Also, I do not believe in travel shaming. I think that people should go. Oh, what, you can't hear me? Oh, I think that people should go wherever they want to, wherever they want to spend their money. That's their choice. I hate seeing people travel shaming people for going to Miami or Vegas or whatever. Do what you want to do. It's your money, right? All I'm saying is if you have the opportunity, it's a big world that we live in. I think you should explore it, and that there are certain places that are more receptive, to seeing us and having us experience a culture. So, Thank y'all for joining. Happy Juneteenth again. Enjoy the rest of your evening, and I will see y'all next Wednesday. These two fingers.